Well, hey everybody, I'm John Rickland with a real honest rant about AEW versus NXT. The Wednesday Night Wars are upon us. Before I start, I do want to credit Avalena WWE for her video because she actually inspired me to film this sooner than I had planned. And really just credit to her. She puts out a lot of great content. Please feel free to check out her video. But here are my opinions and my thoughts on the impending Wednesday Night Wars. One, this is not going to be like the Monday Night Wars. The ratings are never going to be that high again. They simply aren't. I don't know if a lot of fans are really expecting that, but I just wanted to put that out there. It's going to be very interesting to see TNT and USA Network go head to head again as far as, in the wrestling wars. It's going to be, a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people. Like a lot of fans like me, that lived through the Monday Night Wars and really enjoyed the Monday Night Wars, even the bad stuff. And believe me, watched a lot of retro. I've watched and done a lot of retro reviews, and some of that retro content. Boy, it is hard to sit through because some pay-per-views have aged really well. I'm probably going to be doing a review of Fall Brawl 99 here in a couple weeks. Honestly, some of those pay-per-views, some of those Raw Nitro episodes, some of the SmackDown Thunder episodes do age pretty goddamn well. Some angles, some don't age well at all. So really, it's a mixed bag. With this impending, upcoming Monday Night Wars, you have, USA Network showing NXT in a 2-hour format live September 18th, 2 weeks before AEW goes live on TNT October 2nd. No doubt Vince was the one to pretty much just encourage USA Network to hey, you let's put our product on here. Give us some more money, we'll make this live. Or maybe USA was like, hey, we want a piece of that pie. We don't want Turner we don't want TNT. I mean, even though I know Turner doesn't own it anymore, we don't want them to just have this. Hey, let's get back into the whole idea of the war. So that's where we're going to go here. Again, the ratings are not going to be that high. There's going to be some good shit. Healthy competition is exactly what's needed. And I also want to say that if anybody says you have to choose between AEW and NXT, if you have to choose one or the other, fuck every single person that says that, because you don't have to choose. You know why? Because even in the Monday Night War era, some people would tape Raw and watch Nitro live. Some people would do the opposite. They would watch Raw live and tape Nitro. And then when SmackDown and Thunder came on, even though they were on separate days, I think Thunder was Wednesday and SmackDown was Thursday, if I recall correctly, they were still the B shows. Some people would, they would watch both live. Or if they were ever on the same day, they would tape one and watch the other. There were options to do that. Obviously now with technology just, going off the goddamn charts and so many wrestling companies having streaming services, co-branding with Independent Wrestling TV, that kind of stuff, and ways to watch Stardom, stuff from Japan, All Japan, New Japan. I'm subscribed to New Japan World. You could watch the British independent scene. You could watch ICW. You can watch a whole lot of stuff. From Europe and, CMLL, AAA in Mexico. You can watch Canadian promotions. You can watch so many promotions here in the U.S. The whole point of this is there are so many ways to watch wrestling. The ratings will not be that high, obviously. But with the fact that there's so many options and so many ways to watch wrestling, you can watch AEW, you can watch NXT, you can watch AEW live. You can watch NXT on demand later because it will be on the network later. You can, record NXT on USA and watch it right after AEW. A lot of people that are reviewing it, I will be reviewing AEW. I don't know about the 2-hour live NXT, but I will be reviewing AEW. Myself and the Durbinator will be reviewing that because it's going to be a lot of fun and it's very exciting. Now, AEW could totally flame out and we could have no war after 6 months. Or a year. Or it could be less than that. Who the fuck knows? Honestly, there's really no way to know. AEW has done a few pay-per-views. All Out is coming up in a few days. And I wanted to record this ahead of All Out. Mainly just to give my ideas because everybody and their mother is talking about this. And I figured I could just give my opinions. But as somebody that lived through the Monday Night Wars, I am excited to see what's going to happen. But I'm also keeping my expectations low. Because I want to be honest here. NXT, the weekly product, has been hit and miss to me. There are some good matches, there are some good angles, and there's some good stuff that's going on. The problem is also, the 1-hour format is a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense some talents don't get overexposed. It's a bad thing in the sense that some talents are in angles and then they're forgotten about for a couple months, and then you forget about them. And There are some men and women that I've totally forgotten are on the roster. A 2-hour format could bring some more people up that are ready for the performance center, and you could see, them doing jobs and that kind of stuff. And it could go back to the old Ohio Valley Wrestling format where you bring up people from classes, and they get to where they, depending on their skill level, they do jobs, and then, they come back over time, and then they bubble up and do some good shit. And also, I may be doing a real honest rant about OVW call-ups versus NXT call-ups and how they're kind of similar in being ruined, even though I don't think NXT call-ups have been totally ruined. A lot of OVW ones were. But anyway, I think that can benefit them. The women's division can hopefully get some more opportunities because, let's be honest, this is something other people have said in videos and stuff that people have talked to me about on Twitter. The women's division in NXT, while talented, do not get me wrong, I am not going to sit, besides Duke and Shafir, because they're useless, there's a stacked women's roster down there. But the problem is a lot of them are unproven because they haven't gotten a chance to really be on TV. And anytime they're on TV, they're barely on TV for a little bit. Io Shirai and Candice, I almost said Candice Michelle again. Io Shirai and Candice LeRae, absolutely tore it up at, the most recent NXT TakeOver. They absolutely tore it up. Mia Yim and Shayna, match was what it was. I didn't really care for it. There were some people that liked it, but I'm not going to fault either woman. They did their best. Candice and Io absolutely shine there. That's an example of how you can use your women properly. And since NXT is no longer going to be developmental, even though it is going to still be taking place at Full Sail at least through December, which is good news because they're going to have access to the Performance Center and all that stuff. That is great shit. There's going to obviously be fans that are going to just get in a goddamn pissing contest. Oh, well, Vince is only doing this to be petty or whatever. Or then there will be people over here, well, Vince isn't doing this to be petty. Vince has never done this kind of stuff with the wrestling company. And this is where I'm going to get into a little bit of a tangent. Vince has always hated competition, even though people say he loves it. Oh, it challenges him. It does this kind of stuff. People tend to forget what happened with Jim Crockett Promotions. And I'm going to go back, just very, very briefly. Black Saturday, when he bought the Georgia Championship Wrestling time slot and stuff like that, and bought it right out from under everybody. And he took over. He was on TBS. His wrestling product was on TBS and USA. And said USA was syndicated and TBS was syndicated. He was able to have nice 1-2 punch all over. And he was already taking over a whole bunch of territories. A whole bunch of wrestling promotions were either dying or had lost a whole lot of stars. He got Hogan from the AWA and a whole bunch of people. Mean Gene Okerlund, Bobby Heenan, Jesse the Body Ventura, David Schultz, Tito Santana, a ton of people. But the thing he did with Jim Crockett Promotions, it was a way to quell the bubbling, enthusiasm that people had. Fans rejected it because the fans did not want, those Southern fans did not want that style of wrestling. Then you get to, you get to the time slot being bought back, and that funded WrestleMania, and then the whole cable wars that nearly happened where Survivor Series 87 got put on the same day as Starrcade 87, and Vince quelled that, telling cable companies, he was lying, but said, well, you carry this, you won't get WrestleMania 4. And then the Clash of Champions, the first Clash of Champions happened, but then you had even that Bunkhouse Stampede and Royal Rumble on the same day, the Jim Crockett Promotions pay-per-view that failed miserably, and then the free Royal Rumble on USA, and then Clash of Champions on TBS that dented WrestleMania, and then Clash of Champions, from the Superdome, I think it was 5 or 6. That was against WrestleMania 5, and then cable companies got pissed off and said, stop doing this. But then by that point, WCW was all, Yes, Vince has been petty. He's always been petty. He made fun of Hogan and Savage after they went to WCW. There's so many goddamn examples of Vince being petty that it would take forever in this video to list it. He was petty towards TNA when TNA was bubbling up. The first time he did that whole thing in, what was it? When TNA went to Monday nights, for that Monday night special, January 4th, 2010. Oh, Impact's going, there, and they're going to have Hogan, they're going to have a whole bunch of people. Hey, let's announce Bret Hart coming back. Let's not keep it a surprise. No, Vince isn't clearly scared at all when another company decides to rise up. Now, it's smart marketing as far as Vince, because he's drawing the most eyeballs to his product. I won't deny that. But he's a petty motherfucker, and he always will be. The problem is, Vince isn't who he was in the Monday Night Wars. There are people smarter now that are, helping run AEW. Now, whether AEW succeeds or not, they at least seem to have some good ideas, focusing on tag team wrestling, which is something even NXT has had issues with. Even NXT UK has had issues with. Though the NXT UK or the NXT tag brands, I will admit, are booked better than Raw and SmackDown. I'll have a real honest rant about tag team wrestling in WWE at some point. But with all this, Vince has always been petty. Vince was going to be petty like this. They did the whole thing with Takeover UK Cardiff, trying to compete against New Japan's Royal Quest. New Japan's Royal Quest has sold a whole lot better than Cardiff, and also I think there's a football game going on that day. Football, well, what we call soccer in the U.S., every normalized country out there calls football because that's their version of football. We just have American football. But the whole point is, when they did that, I knew that it wasn't going to work, and I don't know how well UK Cardiff has sold. I can't imagine too well. Hopefully it does, because the talents do deserve that. But Vince is trying to overreach and trying to quell all these companies that are rising up. I don't know if it's going to work. Yes, WWE is flush with cash. They are doing some great things, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to work. We then go to, so we're going to just wrap it all back around to, do I think that the wars are going to be something? They could be. It's going to be very interesting to see just how fans react to all this, because even though the internet was around for some of the Monday Night Wars, it wasn't like it is now. There are obviously many more options, the streaming and all that stuff that I listed before. I think that AEW versus NXT could be fun, because NXT is their hottest brand. It's their brand that gets the most buzz. It gets some, detractors, them hoovering up every single indie star and not using it as a developmental territory like it was meant to be originally. But whatever. I mean, you got to hoover up some people. The 2-hour format will help. Hopefully the women get more attention, because there are so many talented women there. Vanessa Bourne in particular is one that I hope gets enough of a chance, or gets more of a chance. And there are other women on there that deserve a chance. And I'm not just going to go listing all the women, because then I'll forget. Casey Catanzaro, though, is one I hope that gets more of an opportunity. Heel Io Shirai, that's more of what we need. And, you get crossovers between UK talents and, the NXT UK women's roster and the NXT roster. Deonna Purrazzo hopefully gets more attention. Rhea Ripley, Toni Storm, Kaylee Ray. You get more women crossing over between the brands, and I think you might actually make something work. And since it's live, USA is going to cover the cost, like I think $30 million a year, $30 to $50 million a year. I think it's 30, it's what it actually is, which will help cover the cost. Because the thing is, and this is another bullet point that I wanted to come up with, NXT is running a deficit with their live events and their takeovers and stuff like that. And yes, they make money on merch, and yes, they make money as far as like ticket sales and stuff like that. The ticket sales and everything are about like this, and the deaths are about like this. I'll just put that in there in the frame. The whole point is, it's a lot, and that's the last couple of years. Now, that's going to happen with just about anything, but don't tell me that as a brand, NXT will be successful right off the bat. Network subscriptions, I don't feel will go down. I don't think they should go down just because NXT will not be live on the network, because the takeover still will be, until USA decides that, hey, we want the takeover pie, and damn it, you're going to put those on here. That's actually, I think, that would damage NXT a little more. What won't damage NXT is a chance to have their roster be exposed more on there. But on the flip side, some talents feel more special because you don't see them all the time. If you start seeing them every week, will they have that special feel? That's going to be another thing AEW has to work on, is not overexposing and has to rotate out their roster and stuff like that. So they're going to need to assemble a pretty big roster, because they're going to have a 2-hour format as well. And they're not going to be able to just rely on the comedy bullshit and this kind of stuff. And I rail against WWE for the comedy, so I have to rail against AEW for it. I understand some people like it, I just don't. But they're going to have to present it with some entertainment, but as a sports-oriented product. And hopefully they can do that, because if AEW doesn't do that, it may end up faltering more than I think they plan. But to wrap all this around, because I wanted to give a little history and a little bit of stuff like this, will AEW versus NXT become a big rivalry? It could, and I hope it does, because it will cause every single talent to elevate their game, saying, okay, hey, I'm working for this company, I want my company to be as be the best. Well, this other company over here, this roster is saying, I want my company to be the best. And it's only going to help elevate other companies that are around, like other indie promotions and stuff like that have their own streaming services and everything. It's going to cause them to elevate their game. And bit of a tease for later. I might cover this on a Real Honest podcast at some point. I think we are closer to getting to back to a territory system, I think, than we ever were. We'll see. We will absolutely 100% see. But really, my thoughts on AEW versus NXT, you don't have to choose one. Watch both. If somebody tells you you have to choose one over the other, fuck them. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Really, you don't. Because the whole point of being a wrestling fan is watch what you watch. Enjoy what you enjoy. And if you enjoy aspects of AEW and NXT and you want both to succeed, then you are, congratulations, the type of wrestling fan that there should be. Because just because I hate, some company, or I don't care for some companies, or I don't care for some wrestlers, doesn't mean I don't want the company to succeed. Hopefully that continues to happen in AEW and NXT. It can be a fun way for fans to interact and have, and just enjoy the products that they enjoy. The social media interactions will be interesting, but guys, this is my message to you at the end of this video. Let's be a little less toxic. And this is coming from me. Nobody gets more angry or upset for absolutely no reason towards wrestling. I'm not saying I won't call out the bullshit if it happens in NXT or AEW. But let's be a little less toxic. Let's try to do that. Take it from somebody that lived through the Monday Night Wars. There was some toxicity there. There were WCW fans, there were WWE fans. There were fans who were right in the middle. And then there were the ECW fans. They couldn't sit at the big boys table and stuff like that. And I feel bad for saying about ECW because they drew some pretty big crowds and everything, but it was always WWE and WCW. Even though ECW did influence both companies, I will have to say that. But in closing, just guys, be cool with each other. Let's have some fun. You don't need to let somebody tell you that you can't watch something, and you have to watch this product. Fuck that. That's not a good mindset to have. If you say, hey, you're watching this, would you mind checking out this product? Oh, you're not interested? Oh, okay. Or have a frank, friendly discussion. I've had random people that do not follow me that just find my tweets and hey, they find it like through search words or whatever, and they'll interact with me. And I had one, I don't even remember his name. I think he had Andrew in his name. It was a brief interaction, but, he was fine. I think it was about 24/7 championship or something like that. I don't like it, but it is what it is. Everybody's going to like what they like, and that's just how it's going to go. So really, in closing, guys, just have fun. Enjoy. Love wrestling. And let's get excited for this. Hopefully, it actually just turns into a really, really fun time and both companies elevate and other companies elevate, because that's really what we need. Healthy competition, healthy business in wrestling. We just need to enjoy wrestling. That's really what we need. But if you hate some of the shit on both shows, one show more than the other, hey, tweet out your passion. But just don't hate on fans if they want to watch something over the other, unless they attack you. And then by all means, defend your brand. But anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I'll see you soon.